All right, Buckeye Patriots Podcast coming to you live here from Cleveland, I guess. I gotta say Cleveland because if I say, well, Cleveland Heights, close enough. Hey, guys, how you doing out there? We got Jonathan. We also have Jake and Sabrina, and it's 4th of July weekend. So we're all getting psyched for that. How you guys doing, okay?
Yeah.
Good. Excellent.
All righty. Well, we will get right into, I'm going to start things off here with this whole Matt Borges thing. I'm going to get you guys' input on this. Matt Borges and Larry Householder, two household names. Let me get these guys up here for a minute. There you go. There's the mug shots. And, it's interesting. They both look a lot alike there. Of course, Matt's a lot younger, but I don't know. They kind of look the same. Anyhow, Matt got 5 years in prison and Larry Householder 20 years. They are both appealing their convictions at this point, so we'll see what actually happens. So I want to go through this briefly. So in March, a jury found both of those guys orchestrating and participating in a $60 million bribery scheme. And this was all with the nuclear power plants and First Energy Corporation. So talking about a little bit here with our good buddy Matt Borges. He was offered a bribe, but a much smaller bribe. So again, he's only getting 5 years. Householder's getting 20 years. Now here's something interesting, and I think Jake and Sabrina might appreciate this. Borges, he was the campaign staffer. He was the chief of staff for the state treasurer in 2004, and the guy's name was Joe Dieters. Does that ring a bell? Joe Dieters.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so what happened was in 2000, see, this isn't the first go-around for Matt Borges, because in 2004 he was found guilty, and he was, again, the head staffer for Joe Dieters, and he was only fined $1,000. He should have probably got hit a lot more, but what he did was he had 10 brokers that contributed to the Dieters campaign. Basically, he told them, if you give a lot of money to Dieters' campaign, I'll do you some favors. Because I have ways of doing that. That's Matt Borges, So anyhow, of course, Joe Dieters knew nothing about it. And but one thing, I'm going to throw this at you guys. There's no darn thing that says that you don't know anything about what's going on politically. Everybody knows what's going on politically. That's just the way it is, okay? But apparently he didn't know any of this was going on. But if I get back to, but the interesting role with Joe Dieters, because a lot of people don't know this, he was just selected as the Ohio Supreme Court Justice.
Right.
He was just selected as Ohio Supreme Court Justice. So 19 years ago, was a little bit of controversy with him. He was never a judge. But he is now the top judge. Now, if we go back to the current situation with the Matt Borges and Larry Householder, these two guys here. Those two guys. There's also a couple others that were involved. Juan Cepitas and Jeff Longstreth. They pleaded guilty. They're going to get up to 6 months in prison. We'll see what happens. But there was a third guy. Let's see if you guys knew anything about this. There was a third guy involved. His name was Neil Clark. Does that ring a bell at all? Neil Clark. He was known as a super lobbyist. Okay, so he was involved in this whole scheme, this whole First Energy scheme. He was a big part of it. And if I'm not mistaken, he worked with the FBI so that he could get his prison term reduced. Problem is, he ended up committing suicide. So the prison term didn't do him a whole lot of good. But there's a lot of, it's one of those suicides, guys, where, you get shot like 20 times and, there's a couple of knife wounds in you and everything else but it's suicide, So anyhow, that was Neil Clark. First Energy has said, yeah, they did bad. They were fined $230 million for what they did. The whole idea behind that, if you remember, was they had a couple of nuclear power plants. They didn't want to fix them up, and if they got rid of them, they wanted the taxpayers. They wanted us paying for all that stuff. They wanted us paying for it, and to the tune of about $1 billion. And That's what it was all about. So these guys got, Householder wanted $60 million in a bribe, and I think First Energy is saying, well, that sounds good to us. $1 billion versus $60 million. Yeah, we'll make it happen. I don't know what Borges was, how much Borges wanted. But the other thing with Borges is, you guys probably know this, he was the state chairman about 6 years ago. He was the state chairman for the Republican Party. So anyhow, that's what. I don't know.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. It's a mess. So anyhow, we'll see what happens here. But crime does not pay. That's the main thing there. Crime does not
Joe, I don't know if a lot of people know how appeals work, but we should discuss that, because an appeal makes it just go on longer and longer and longer. So is Larry and Matt just going to sit around and live out their days outside of jail while this appeal's going on? Or are they actually going to take them to jail and make them walk through the appeal process?
I know they got handcuffed when they left the courtroom. They were handcuffed, but I don't know if you have to be in jail while it's being appealed or not. I don't know that. I don't know. But
I think when you appeal something, it stays the decision. So I think, at least in domestic, I don't know what kind of court this is, what this is called, but I'm pretty sure an appeal stays the decision. And potentially, if they're appealing the guilty verdict, it's basically like they're not even guilty, I believe. I'm not sure.
Is that right? Okay, it could be.
They're probably not in jail.
What do you got to lose? Especially if you're Larry Householder, you got 20 years, so you may as well appeal it. Give it a shot. I don't know. I don't know if they're in. What's that again?
And on top of that, I think they look alike because they're doing the same crime. And I think you're going to see a lot of these politicians and state chairmen. I think Bob Paduchik, you're going to see him get arrested.
Oh,
these people are
good old
terrible.
Do you know what crime these guys committed? They committed a white-collar crime. That's what they committed.
Right. It's true.
So they got white.
It's absolutely ridiculous what the politicians have been getting away with.
Yeah.
And what I find so interesting is that I guarantee you, up the ladder, Mr. DeWine and Husted and some of these other politicians are a part of this, and they're just throwing their buddies under the bus.
Right.
Yeah, but we really can't say. I mean, we could speculate, but at least with these two guys, we know for sure they're guilty. Hey,
and the other thing. Remember when the Blue 22, before we passed SJR2 and before this passed in the House, a lot of people were saying what Stevens did is exactly what Larry Householder did.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, all those Republican politicians that were saying Stevens is no worse than Larry Householder, would they still say that now? Or are they accidentally maybe telling on themselves that maybe there's a lot more to this story, what Stevens has done being similar to Householder? I believe it is.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, because a lot of people were saying, well, what Jason Stevens did is no different than what Larry Householder did. But of course, they're not referring to the bribery or a $60 million bribery or anything. What they're referring to is, Larry Householder needed the Democrats to become Speaker of the House, and so did Jason Stevens. He had to do the same thing, which is really crummy. And I don't think we want to forget about those 22. I know we got a big election coming up with issue 1.
Yeah, we're going to be suffering the consequences of that gang of 22 for a while now.
For a long time.
We've already seen repercussions, and if we don't continue to act, if we don't get some traction with vacating that speakership, if we don't get traction with vacating that seat, I think we have a few more years of just not a whole lot of great stuff getting done, and tepid, lukewarm things. All the conservative things that many in Ohio really hoped for is all just parked in neutral. It's on hold. But actually, Joe, if you'll give me a second here, I want to add a little perspective to this whole conversation you just had about Larry Householder, and you brought up some other names that are not familiar to me. So for any listeners out there who are new or newish to politics, don't worry. I readily admit I was in the same camp just a few years ago. You may see me commenting on things and trying to follow along and getting involved in politics, which a couple of years ago was pretty typical, kind of oblivious to all these things. So householder, these issues with bribes being taken, I'm playing catch up too. So I'm throwing this in for a little perspective, because I think to the layperson who's maybe just starting to tune in on on political issues in Ohio, all these new names and these connections, and somebody served in somebody's office for a while.
I know what you're saying.
It can seem daunting.
Right.
It can seem daunting. So,
yeah, without a doubt. Like, okay, so when I throw out Matt Borges was the state chairman 6 years ago, it's like, okay, fine, great, whatever. What the hell? Most people would say, well, what's a state chairman? What does he do? He's like the top figurehead for the Republican Party. But I got what you're saying. I'm
hoping that people hear my voice and just stick with it a little while. You'll start to figure it out in no time at all. I did. I mean, it was only a couple of years ago. Friends of mine started telling me about Central Committee, and I did the thing that a lot of Republicans do at first. I sent off a check once a year to the Cuyahoga County Republican Party and just figured the Republicans were doing good stuff and that they were on the ball and they would fix things and do good things for me. It wasn't until later that I started actually paying attention to what they were doing and not doing, and started to get involved. Just a side note on that. If you're not already aware, you, the listener, of something called precinct strategy, check it out. For all these issues, I'm becoming more and more just fascinated with the notion that precinct strategy is the thing that's going to help us to fix these issues. It's grassroots, ground up rebuilding from the ground all the way to the top, rebuilding the Republican Party in a way that helps us to bring not only meaningful legislation and block bad bills, but also bring accountability to people that are committing these crimes. A lot of times they get away with it because they're party favorites and all those kinds of things. Real good, solid, constitutional conservative Republicans throughout the party, I believe, are the ones that are going to finally turn the tide on this thing, fight back, and get accountability for these people committing crimes.
Yeah, right. And a lot of that, too, that whole county precinct stuff really is centered on the chairman of each county. They really have to take the leading role in that. And if they're not, then it's not going anywhere. But I agree with you. That is the key. That's the way it was established all along. All right, I'm going to go whip through a couple things here, but go ahead if you got something. Go ahead.
I just wanted to also, for the viewers and for you and Jonathan as well, is to make sure that one of the reasons why I think this is so important about Larry Householder and Matt Borges is because I think there's going to be, in my opinion, some repeat offenders here real soon, because we have intel coming in to Licking County, and the New Albany Company is what people really need to be paying attention to, because the New Albany Company is doing some really backdoor, dirty things here in Licking County. They just bought acreage in Licking County at they sold acreage here in Licking County at $310,000 an acre for Microsoft. Microsoft is now doing so we have Intel, Amazon, Google, Facebook, and now we have Microsoft. So this is why the viewers and why people still need to stay engaged. What Jonathan is saying about the precinct, if that throws you off, because that word always throws me off, think local. Like, you got to get involved locally. Precinct means local. When we're talking, and our position is a state level, we're still involved. So it's really important that people still stay engaged, because we have Microsoft coming to Licking County, which is going to affect everyone.
Oh, yeah,
Ohio.
That's big. But that $300,000 an acre stuff that you're just referring to right now.
Who gets $310,000 an acre? Who?
Okay, so what you want to do in something like that is you want to find out who owns that property and
company.
Who's that?
A company. They went around and bought it up.
Okay, they went around and bought it up. You know why they went around and bought it all up? Because they were given heads up ahead of time that Intel was coming in there. I mean, that is very common. That's very common with politics. And that's how these guys get so rich. You know,
Right.
they're buying up that acreage. They're buying up that acreage, I don't know, years earlier,
Right.
very cheap, because they know. They know, hey, 5 years from now, Intel's coming or something like that, and I'm going to sell it for $300,000 an acre. Imagine that.
And the New Albany, go ahead, Jonathan.
I was going to say, I think the farmers should team up and sue them. I mean, because if they can, especially if they can find a way to prove that happened, that these people that bought up the farmland a while ago had insight ahead of time, they should form a class action and sue. By the way, I'm muting my phone. I've got neighbors that are lighting fireworks. My dogs are going crazy. I really apologize for the barking in the background.
No.
They apparently they really don't like fireworks. So I'm muting and unmuting to try and save.
Yeah, no
this
problem, no problem.
podcast
As long as you don't start barking, as long as I don't hear you, you go.
Hey, I am a Browns fan. I could do some barking.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the New
But
Albany,
But what
So-
Sabrina said right there is very important, because that is typical. That is very, very typical of the corruption that goes on.
It
So
is.
we got to keep an eye on that. Yeah.
sorry, Jonathan,
Oh,
go ahead.
let me throw in there. So through precinct strategy, I got to be friends with John Morrow, who is a local. He's a powerhouse on precinct strategy. But I've also become friends with Dan Schultz and Steve Stern. We did a soft launch last Friday on Twitter Spaces for precinct strategy. We're going to do a weekly session. Mark your calendar, 9 p.m. every Friday on Twitter Spaces. Follow one of us, Dan Schultz, Steve Stern, or me. And every Friday at 9, we're going to jump on Twitter Spaces and talk about precinct strategy. So look it up, you can find all kinds of things online. As Sabrina said, it's that notion of reclaiming the Republican Party and giving it back to we the people. But join in the conversation Fridays at 9 on Twitter Spaces.
Okay, very good. Yeah.
Good.
We'll have to...
It's good. And I just want to add with New Albany, this is so important because New Albany mayor is a Republican. Really, last month, because we all know what last month had all this colorful craziness to it. He just signed in with New Albany to be a pride community, that it was an official Pride Day in New Albany. And we're talking to a reporter who is announcing that New Albany is officially a pride community. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Wow.
The Republican Party shared it, and I called him out on it. I sent it to Alex. I never heard back from Alex. But this is the type of stuff in the Republican Party we have to pay attention to, because these people are not Republicans. And if they are Republicans, it's not the Republican that we all thought was using their voice for us.
No,
So
they're
we
not
have to-
Republicans. They are Democrats. They are Democrats. And not only that, but they're coming for your kids. Listen to this. This was from Fox News. Coming for the kids, guys. Coming for the kids. So, it's not a laughing matter. I mean, this stuff is everywhere. This was in Lake County, over in Paynesville. This was in Paynesville, sleepy little Paynesville. And you had all this junk going on, all this LGBTQ stuff, the pride. The pride of the pride. And then, drag queen stuff galore and, rainbows everywhere. What's going on? And little kids everywhere. So what is this all about? What is that is bizarre. And then you've got these people here selling and
Churches.
everything's going
Absolutely.
crazy. We're all going nuts. The whole world is going crazy.
It's mental illness.
Yeah, mental illness. Absolutely mental illness. You got it.
It's demonic. And if they can desensitize children, then they've won. They've absolutely won. And parents need to be called on the carpet about this. This is child abuse. If you see children that are in this situation, I mean, I think I said this the last time I was on the podcast. I don't go to these things and go to these places because I will end up in jail, because I cannot tell you, it infuriates me to see children sitting in front of men with their private parts hanging out. I mean, who in their right mind does that? That is such child abuse.
Nobody in the right mind does it. Nobody in the right mind. No, nobody.
No.
Nope. But that's what's going on. We gotta stay in tune to it. We got to stay in tune.
I have a question on Pride Month. So I've been asking this question over and over again on social media, and unsurprisingly, so far I have zero answers. But my question is, why is Pride Month 3 years long? We're in year 3 of Pride Month, and why must it include children? I just keep posting that. Every time somebody comes up with this Pride Month, and then people are commenting like, oh, yay, we finally got through it. It ended. I don't think anything ended. It's been 3 years. Candidly, I don't think last month was any different than the month prior or last year. It's this endless corruption of children, the sexualization.
Endless. Exactly. You're right. And it's an attack on the kids, man, big time. It's an attack on the kids. As a matter of fact, I was going to talk about the budget, but I want to talk about a few of these bills real quick. So let's talk about that now because it runs right into this. I'm going to go to Gary Click's. This is a really good bill. It's House Bill 68. Gary Click. Let me find Gary here. I got him somewhere. If I can find it. But anyhow, it prohibits gender affirming for trans and non-binary youth. Non-binary youth is a term that's used a lot today. I don't know why, but what wasn't used too often in the past. Here he is. Okay, there he is. Okay, Gary Click. Now, this still has to get approved by the Senate. All right. But it better get approved by the Senate. And he's got a bunch of co-signers here. Look at all those co-signers. So it's got a supermajority in the House. So basically what he's referring to again, House Bill 68, is that it prohibits hormone and puberty blockers and hormone replacement therapy and medical surgery procedures. Okay, this is really good stuff here. So it's very anti-LGBTQ, and it's gotten support from everybody in the House. You know, all the lawmakers on the Republican side. The reasoning is because they are saying that trans teens do not know what they really want. Their parents and doctors are pressuring them into this, and parents are being manipulated by the physicians. That's what Click said. And he's right on. I mean, they absolutely, the physicians and the schools and then the parents. And you got a little kid. What the little kid going to do? He's going to go along with it. It's sickening, right? Also, the bill does more than just ban puberty blockers and things like that. It prevents trans kids from participating in athletics. So that is House Bill 68. So what do you guys think? Is that a good one?
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think it's also, we have teenagers currently, and I think it's also important for parents. You know, I'm not sure exactly who watches the podcast. Maybe there's some people on here going through some stuff with teens right now, but teens think they know everything. I mean, think about when you were a teenager. You thought you knew everything. You thought your parents, didn't know anything, and you just wanted to do what feels good. You wanted to be hanging out all the time. School was stupid. Work was cool because you would get a paycheck, but then you wanted to go and spend your money. Like, you cannot be your teen's friend right now. Use your own common sense to say, I'm not going to allow my child to mutilate their body when they can't even decide if they want to get up at noon or if they want to go to bed at 10 or if they want to get up at 7. They're not even consistent with anything. Right. They're still eating Cocoa Puffs at times. I mean, seriously.
Well, and your brain is not developed until you're 25. I believe it's 24 or 25. Your brain isn't completely developed. And that has always been science up until the last so many years where they've kind of reinvented, allow this woke thought process. But there's some things you just don't want children to make decisions on.
Oh my God, no! Come on, a kid, adults shouldn't even be doing this. I don't care what age you are; you should not be doing this.
It's so true. And teens actually are so smart. They get such a bad name, but I'm telling you, teens are creative at this age, and we should be pushing them towards creativity of owning your own business. What do you want to do?
What's wrong with that? Right. Teach them work ethics and things like that. Yeah, but not Johnny, you should become Gina.
Exactly.
No.
It's stupid.
It's so stupid, but it's actually happening. Doggone it.
I completely agree with you. However, I'm going to interject some things, and I'm going to start with probably arguably the most important first. For the time being, we have to look to places like New York, Michigan, and California for where the left intends to go. This is going to be controversial. You may not like it, but I think it's fundamentally important. The advice that I'm hearing given is, if your kid, first of all, you've heard me through Protect Ohio Children, I'm a big advocate of getting your kid out of these government schools. But if for some reason your kid gets caught up in this stuff and starts coming home, or you get wind that your child is suddenly referring to themselves as a different name or picking a different gender pronoun, here's the controversial part, but follow me on this. Allow the use of the alternate name or gender or anything along that line in the school, but draw the line there. Here's what's happening in places like California. Child Protective Services are using the concept that parents are fighting back against this gender theory stuff to take children away. I think that's where the left is headed. And so what I've seen, and it makes a lot of sense, some parents are saying, okay, I draw the line at a name, maybe some clothes. Maybe little Johnny is going to wear a dress one day and see it sort of experiment or something. I know it's controversial, but hear me out. What they're doing, however, these smart parents, is saying there's no chance you're giving my child any drugs, any injections, any surgeries, and no psychology. So what they're doing is, and there are people, I understand, there are people that come down hard and fast, and they've got a line in the sand, and that crosses the line, and I don't disagree. But the problem is government power. And if the government can come into your home and take your children away, we may find ourselves at a point where we have to strike a balance and stay off the radar so that Child Protective Services doesn't come in and pluck children out of the home.
Well, we've got to get some laws passed that would prohibit that.
I completely agree. Yeah, we got to get some laws passed. But here's the thing. So on House Bill 68, I'm going to throw 3 bills out. I really suggest looking into each of the 3 of these because they all passed in rapid succession in the House. House Bill 68, House Bill 8, and House Bill 73. Just in quick summary, 68 is Save Adolescents from Experimentation. House Bill 8 is Parents' Bill of Rights. And House Bill 73 is Patient and Provider Protections. My reason for bringing all 3 of those bills up is my network started saying right away, yes, this is really exciting that we passed these 3 bills, but what we're suspicious of is DeWine does not want to sign them, 1, 2, or all 3 of them. If that's true, and DeWine does not want to sign these, then he has 2 choices. He has veto power, and if he vetoes, with the amount of, you saw the list of co-signers on these bills. There's a lot of momentum. There's a lot of public interest. There are a lot of people in our state legislature who are backing these bills. If DeWine were to veto 1, 2, or all 3 of these fundamental, wonderful, great bills, he might end up with egg on his face because the Republican Party might have the votes to override his veto. So, since all 3 of these bills have passed the House, now they're being considered by the Senate. I suspect that DeWine is probably trying to pull some levers. If again, this assumes that DeWine is opposed to these bills. That's what I'm hearing. He may be trying to pull some levers and apply pressure within the Senate to get the bills killed. So that includes 68. My urging is everybody out there, follow all 3 of these bills. If you want more detail, go to fortifygeauga.org. I've mentioned that in the past. My wife's involved in leadership there. Mostly the design of that is to talk about county issues, but there are a lot of state issues, the summaries, the connections, where it stands in review process. That group is doing a spectacular job. By the way, the 87 other counties, you should grab the idea and run with it. But get behind all three of those bills, watch them, contact your senators, and try to get this thing pushed over the goal line.
We got to get it pushed over. Now, House Bill 8, I do have a little bit of information on that. These are the two, Swearinger and Carruthers. They put this one forward. It's a really good bill, though. House Bill 68. Let me just pull this down. There's all your co-sponsors. There's a lot of them. Now, what you were just talking about is back to here. What you were just talking about there with House Bill 8 is this is called the Parents' Bill of Rights. It requires public schools to notify parents about any sexual content that they're going to be studying in school. So if they're going to be talking about homosexuality or getting graphic in any component of sex, and of course the teachers know about it in advance. I mean, they just aren't going to spring it on the kids that day. So the parents have to know in advance, and the parents are going to say, "Nah, I don't want my kid there." Boom. They have to provide some other teaching for the kids that day, and your kid is not part of that class. So that's in the Bill of Rights. Okay, so they can opt out of that. And the second thing that's in there is it requires, and this is what you were talking about just a few minutes ago, it requires that educators notify parents if the student wants to identify as a different gender or anything that doesn't align with his biological sex. So there you go, Jonathan. This would help stop what you were just talking about there. Because if the kid is going to identify not only as the opposite sex, but he could identify, as the American flag, let's say, the parents have to.
Hey, Joe, I want to say you cannot, and Jonathan, I understand what you're saying, but I will tell you, if my kid wanted to do that, I'm saying no way, it's not happening. I would fight no matter what the government tries to pull, and if they want to try to pull that to take the kids, they better bring an army. They'll have to bring a heck of an arsenal. No, you're not taking my kids because I'm protecting them from being mentally ill. So, and I'll tell you, you cannot give an inch to the liberals or they'll take a mile, is my opinion. So I think if you do that strategy of saying, okay, we'll call you this today, it's a slippery slope. You might think that might be what they have to do in California, but we're fighting in Ohio to get out.
They don't even have to do this in California. Jonathan, I do really appreciate you, but I would encourage you not to say those words to people because people will take that and run. What you have to do is you have to teach your child that it's okay if you get an F on a subject. It's okay for you to stand up and say, I'm not going to do that, or to walk out and sit in the hallway. We have to teach our children to stand up and be warriors. We have to stop telling our children, it's okay for you to do it here, but not here. You're confusing children. We have to teach our children that we follow what the Bible says, and the Bible says that I'm a female and Jake's a male. And if someone's going to come against that, I trust my children to stand up. And if they get kicked out of school, if they get taken to the principal's office, the principal has a duty to call me. If something happens, it's on the school's head, not my head. They're not allowed to touch my children. They're not allowed to say these things to my children. So we have to be very cautious and if you're going to keep your children in school, you need to be okay with an F on an assignment from here on out. Not get into an Ivy League school from here on out. You need to be okay that to teach your child, I'm going to respectfully disagree with my teacher and I'm not going to do these things. I'm not participating in that. And if that means he comes home today, that means he comes home today. We do never give an inch, and I would never encourage a parent to do that. If you're keeping your children in school, you better teach your children how to be warriors, or they will go on to the other side, because you don't step into the lion's den and decide to come back out as a child. You're going to get eaten alive.
Hey, I got that's very good, very good. Hey, we've got a chat. We have to, it says DeWine instituted his mask mandate 3 years ago.
Oh,
on the 4th. Was that on the 4th of July?
I thought it was maybe it was. The mask mandate probably
was.
The
mask mandate? What, did he really do that on the 4th of July?
It was St. Patrick's Day when he shut down everything. It was St. Patrick's Day, but remember, it was so many months later.
That we weren't allowed to have get-togethers and that we weren't allowed to go see our family. Do you think there was ever an apology for that? No, there's never an apology for any of this garbage. DeWine cannot stand children. He has harmed more children outside of the womb than he's protected them ever. He has harmed so many children. He literally should go to jail for murder.
Well, the whole debacle there with Amy Acton and everything like that is just such a joke. But here's something else we'll talk about real quick. This is the other bill that Jonathan, you mentioned, 73, and it has to do with. I'm gonna figure out a way to do this. But there we go. Okay, so you got Jennifer Gross, Mike Loychick, House Bill 73, and here's the co-sponsors. As you can see, there's quite a few of them. What this bill is. And in a nutshell, this helps a lot. These bills are helping tremendously. It would give Ohioans greater medical freedom. The Ohio House passed a bill. Now, this is just the House. It hasn't gone. The Senate has not done it. Like you said, if DeWine doesn't like any of this stuff, he's going to twist some arms in the Senate to make sure it doesn't get passed. But by gosh, if we find out that DeWine did that, there's going to be a lot more than just arm twisting going on. There's going to be a lot of really unhappy people. Okay, so to make it easier for patients to get prescription drugs for off-label purposes such as hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, if you run into this whole coronavirus thing again. So it's greater medical freedom. And we don't ever want to go back to the masking. And we don't ever want to go back to shutting down all the churches but keeping Home Depot open, all that BS. And the amount of money that big pharmaceutical companies made off of Corona is sickening, just absolutely sickening how much money they've made. So we know it was a partial scheme. I mean, I'm not saying that there wasn't a virus and stuff like that, but there was a big scheme. You had to buy their medical drugs, and they made a killing off of it, actually.
So the problem is that we have too many people saying that you had to do that. You didn't have to do any of that. What you had to do is you had to change doctors, or you had to believe that Jesus heals today, just like he did 2,000 years ago. We don't have to do any of this stuff. So many people, I hope and pray, learn from what happened in 2020. And I do believe people are waking up, but I still think we have so many people right now that are making excuses and thinking they have to do stuff. And we have people in our family that make excuses. I know it's very difficult to make a decision to go outside of your network to see an eye doctor or a dentist that isn't inside your network because you've been paying insurance. Well, that may be the way it goes from here on out. Jake and I, when we said we were not going to wear a mask, we wore a mask 2 times. We wore a mask into court because we were saving children. If you're saving children, I have an exception for you. If you're not saving children, I could care less about your latte, your driver's license. We had a child that had to get her driver's license. I literally walked out of the driver's license place because they told me she had to put a mask on while everybody behind the counter had no mask on. And then as soon as she had got in the car, she had to put a mask on. I said, we're out of here. It's teaching our children you make hard decisions even when it doesn't feel good and even when it's an exciting time in your life. They screwed up so many exciting times in our children's lives, including our life. And we said, we're not doing this. We're teaching our children to say, you don't do what feels good.
That's right.
No, we can't go back to that ever again. You cannot shut down Ohio ever again. You better believe it. And I hope people have wised up on that. And that's exactly what has to happen. Symbology was not lost on me. He's a traitor.
I think he's talking about DeWine. And I have a question. So whatever happened with, I don't know if it was rumor, but it spread in a lot of places that I listen to and respect. Didn't DeWine buy some, like a couple million doses of hydroxychloroquine, I think it was, early on? And then whatever happened with those? Is that true? Did he buy all those? Somebody should be able to, one of those internet sleuths that's able to look up expenses from the state of Ohio, we should be able to look up and know whether or not it's true. If DeWine purchased millions of doses of hydroxychloroquine early in this whole debacle years ago and sat on them, I think there should be repercussions for that. Have you guys heard about that?
No, I haven't. I don't know if Jake and Sabrina have, but I have not heard. I haven't heard anything about that. But as far as repercussions go, it's got to be people that are willing to pursue it and to push charges, and you got to have somebody with some backbone. And you seem to be lacking that a lot.
Precinct strategy.
Yeah, precinct strategy. So
get local.
Yeah, get local.
Yes. Get local. Get active. Get loud.
Get loud. Get active. Yeah. We all got to get tough. We got to get tough. This is just too much, too crazy. But at least those bills, I really am impressed with those bills. The State House, they're doing their job now. We got to see if the Senate will follow through on that, and we got to make Ohio, a strong red state. That's what it is. That's what we are, and that's what we got to do. We got to follow through on that. Yeah.
It's interesting that these bills you're talking about, how many of the Blue 22 are sponsors or co-sponsors of
there's
this.
quite a few. I saw that too.
Really ironic.
Yeah, I know. They're trying to, and Carruthers too. She'd be the last person I thought would be going against the LGBTQ.
They care about children. I mean, really?
All of a sudden, they are conservatives, huh?
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. It's amazing if you keep your eyes on these guys, and same thing with Jason Stevens. We're keeping the eyes on him because I know he never thought that there'd be any backlash. Okay, right. In any of those 22. Okay,
that's why we have to keep using our voice. Our voice is so powerful.
Yeah,
it's free to use. You can't. That I believe it was such a covering up of our voice with the mask is why they did a mask. They wanted us all to sit down and shut up.
Yeah, and we're not going to do that ever again. We are not going to do that ever again. And why he ever put Amy Acton in charge? She had 2 years. Amy Acton had 2 years of residency. That was it. And she was like the highest government healthcare official, which is a joke. 2 years of residency at a medical
because
school.
She'll follow orders. But hey, Joe, Sabrina's comment about us using our voice. Can I use that as a segue for a moment to talk about something near and dear to me? Which
go ahead.
Coalition warfare.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So, if you're not, I'm going to throw a couple of things out for perspective. If you're not familiar with, all right, let me start with perspective using World War II as an example. When we think about World War II, the greatest generation in the battles of World War II, we hear about D-Day and Omaha Beach and all those sorts of things. But there are parts of our understanding of what happened in World War II that are missing. Take a look at what happened, what the Russians did in World War II to the Nazis at the Russian front. It was unbelievable. My point is that it wasn't the Americans, it wasn't the Russians, it wasn't the French, it wasn't the English. It was all of us working together to conquer a common enemy. And that stuff works. I'm seeing examples in Ohio of failing to recognize the value of coalitions, and it frustrates me. If you pick an issue, First Amendment, Second Amendment, K through 12, all of these fights that we have, these battles against the woke left, you just off the top of your head, I bet you can probably think of 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 different groups that are fighting back against these things. You've heard me talk about Protect Ohio Children. I'm a chair and territory lead of Protect Ohio Children, but we're not the only group. We're not even the only group in Ohio. There are lots of groups all over Ohio that are fighting back in education. What has made us tremendously successful is cooperation. We collaborate like you wouldn't believe. All the leaders, we all know each other. We're texting. We're on private messages all day, every day. And that's not just Ohio. I'm talking all the time with, using K through 12 as an example. I'm talking to Parents Defending Education and Heritage Group, you name it, all across the country, other states, the Protect Child Health Coalition. That works. Here's my point, if you are in one of these fights, and there are great groups all around, if you stumble upon leadership in a group that start to tell you something like, and I'm just going to keep it general, I could give lots of specific examples, but I'm going to try and keep people, I'm not to the point yet where I'm going to name names. But if somebody says, well, we're the so-and-so group and we're fighting for Second Amendment rights, but we don't interact with that other group that's fighting for Second Amendment rights, ignore them. Team up on all of these issues and fight. I call it coalition warfare. A good friend of mine, he drafted a whole bunch of bills for Ohio. He introduced me to the concept, and I've run with it ever since. If there is somebody, I don't care what bad things the left say about them. I don't care what names they call them. If they are in this fight, I will talk to anybody and everybody.
Yeah,
no ifs, ands, or buts.
About it. Yeah.
So coalition warfare, I really, really encourage everybody out there in all these groups, get involved and look to build bridges and coalition with other groups. Thank you, Joe.
Yes.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's absolutely right. I call it grassroots. You call it coalitions, but it's all the same. We got to team together and make it happen there. So, you know what we'll do is, who can I touch base with in West Cleveland? Jonathan? Who's out in West Cleveland?
West Cleveland, I would say, depending on how far west, if you're near Lorain County, there's great leadership in Lorain County. I would kind of dovetail with them. I was actually just texting with Russ Van Wormer. He has the Russ Van Wormer radio show. He is part of Lorain County leadership. Kirsten Hill is a great leader. She is the leader of the Tea Party in Lorain County. I don't know how far west.
Of course, you've got some of the Republican groups that could tap into, and that's always a great place to start. Some of the Republican clubs, because you'll meet people that have other grassroots groups, and activists just seem to be involved in a lot of different things. And so
activists are two more names to throw out there to the person from chat. If you're looking in West Cleveland, look for Khalid Namar and look for Dan Messina. Khalid Namar and Dan Messina, two great friends of mine. Khalid Namar, you may recognize from the Bob France radio show. He fills in sometimes for Bob France. Spectacular, great friend of mine. And Dan Messina is really tied in, doing all kinds of great stuff for Patriot initiatives on the west side of Cleveland. I hope that helps.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So we're going to get Jake and Sabrina. You guys got an event coming up. Let me post that here. Freedom Fest. What is Freedom Fest? It's out at your place, right?
Yes, this is at our place at North 64 Farms here. We've got Kash Patel, Bernie Moreno, who's running for Senate, and I think he's got our full endorsement for Senate. You've got a whole bunch of younger conservatives with Connor Royce, Sam McGuire, GOP Josh, Hayden Ferguson, Micah Schultz, and Dakota Sawyer. These young guys are, some of them are from Turning Point. Some of them have their own podcast. These guys, Dakota Sawyer has his own PAC. It's called the American Union PAC, which, by the way, Joe, I think you signed on to his letter along with us. We knew Fran DeWine, that Dakota Sawyer, this 19 or 20-year-old young man. And so, we're going to give the microphone to those 6 young people. Bernie's going to speak. Kash is going to speak. And we got a bunch of food trucks. The event is free. And by the way, it's not even a fundraiser. It's just come out and, hear from these folks, get excited about politics. And, it's our place. So you'll get to see us. And we're excited to see you. And there should be a link. We can post a link on in the comments, but if you can click that you're coming, that'll give us a heads up of how many people we're going to have out at the place. But we have plenty of parking. It's going to be an amazing night.
Wow. Okay. No, that sounds terrific. That sounds terrific. And when is it again?
Well, it's July 29th.
July 29th. Okay.
It starts at 2. It won't be here until later in the evening. So we just wanted to open up at 2:00 and just allow people to come and go as they can. And we'll have some different things happening and going on. Jake is actually the one taking the reins on it. He and my our 21-year-old daughter. So they're doing a great job. We're really excited. He's been working with these young conservatives, and we want young conservative men to stand up because men have been literally bashed down for decades to take a back seat and let the woman, be. A woman definitely can come beside her husband or come beside a man and work, but men are designed differently and do things differently for a reason. They're stronger for a reason. They're the head of the household for a reason. And so it just happened to be that it's, an all young conservative with men on there, but we're excited for them to come. They're excited to come, and they're going to be the ones making decisions for us, you guys, as we get older and we have things coming up and they're working with the representatives and the senators. We want them to be wise. We want them to know what's going on. And there's going to be a time for them that we need to pass the baton to them. I think that's why we're in this season that we're in, is because people like Betty Montgomery and Joanne Davidson and I don't know, some of the older ladies that are on State Central Committee have never passed the baton. And it's okay to pass the baton. You don't have to be in a seat for decades upon decades upon decades, and not say to the younger generation, yeah, I think you're ready, and let them stumble. It's okay for them to stumble. So I'm excited for these young guys to come out and talk. We're excited to have people out to the farm. We love the farm. I want people to come out and have a great time.
All right, that sounds terrific. Hey, let me ask you also about this other issue that you wanted to talk about, and I don't even know the acronym, but it's like GLS or something. But what is that again? What's up with that?
There's a Democrat state rep that's bringing a bill to the floor. It's in committee, or it's going to go to committee. It may not go anywhere. I don't know, but this gives you an idea what the Democrats want to do. But the bill more rights to these people that are GALs. It's a GAL. It's called a guardian ad litem, or a CASA, which is CASA. It's a child advocate. These are people that get involved. They're appointed by the court to supposedly advocate for children in domestic court, or in courts like probate court, when they're trying to decide placement of children. Or GAL is appointed by the court. They're supposed to get to know the child. They're supposed to get to know the families, and then put a report so the judge can make a decision. Judges generally make decisions heavily on the GAL report, or on the CASA's report. But this law that's out here, that's being brought to the floor by Adam Miller, a Democrat, wants to pass a law to protect GALs, to protect CASAs from families using their free speech to talk about their case online, to where it would be a crime. If this law passed, it would be a crime for us to talk about our GAL and our case, which we believe is free speech. We should, the Republican Party stands for free speech. Democrats want to squelch it. We think, hey, let's pass to children's.
Yeah, there's so many adults right now. And first of all, what people should be asking themselves is, why do guardian ad litems need protection? Why is it that they're so afraid of what someone might say about them? Because they should be protecting children. Well, I'll tell you why, is because 99% of the guardian ad litems right now are crap lawyers. They're horrible people. They should never be around children. They should actually be disbarred. And I'm not just saying that. You could ask anyone that's in a court case right now that has a guardian ad litem, and I will put money. Well, I'm not a gambling person, but I bet that 99% of these people that are in these cases will tell you how horrible their guardian ad litem is. Our guardian ad litem makes $160 an hour, and he made over $11,000 off of our children's cases, and only saw our children 4 times, you guys. 4 times. He doesn't even know their teachers. He has no idea what they do, what their interests are, and that's his job. Well, he has a lot of cases, and he makes a lot of money off of just scooting in and out of these children's lives, and then giving them what he thinks is the best situation. Well, the best situation the guardian ad litems think is giving the children back to the most toxic parent, which is typically the parent who's doing drugs and can't get off drugs. That's why I'm involved with all of this chaos in their home, is because of guardian ad litems. Guardian ad litems are making big money off of children, you guys. And so this Adam Miller, I'd like to do a little bit of research on this, because I want to know why he is pushing this to protect adult lawyers and not actually pushing more things to protect children.
Right.
Is it getting any momentum, the bill? And he's in the State House, right? Adam Miller? State House?
It's supposed to go to committee. I doubt it'll go anywhere, because every state rep I've talked to said if Adam Miller's pushing it, they're against it. They don't even have to read it. They just know he's a loony. But that's their quick politician answer when I send them a text, right?
Well, you have to wonder why it's on the news, because the news only puts out what they are pushing. And so if this is something they're trying to slide through, Jake is the one that saw it quickly. I mean, it's really crazy how this came up, but we were sitting having pizza one night and the news was on and he was like, oh my goodness. And so he wrote it down real quick. We looked into it and we are urging people, this better be a lame duck, if that's what they call it. It better not even go to committee. No. You guys, these guardian ad litems are the people, they're worse than CPS. Right. They are horrible, horrible individuals, and they will ruin children's lives and make tons of money off of it.
Well, I mean, think about it. It's job security. If they keep the child in corruption, then that keeps them involved in the case. And what kind of attorney works for $165 an hour? I mean, it sounds like a lot, but most attorneys are 200 plus. So they're generally cut rate attorneys that aren't very busy at their regular career. So they take these cases working for, the state, working for the court system, and they overbook and they do a bad job, and they want to, in job security, keep the kids in and out of shared parenting, because that keeps them on the case, keep the case open forever. But I'll say, you don't want to pass a law to squelch free speech. Like if a parent sees that the GAL or the CASA in their case is not doing their job, that parent should be able to blow the whistle. You can't make it a crime for telling the truth. And even actually free speech works whether it's true or not. But if it's their opinion, they should be able to voice it however they want to.
Let me also say this, that they do not allow children to use their voice. You guys, we have a case right here in Licking County that Mark Poole, guardian ad litem, is a guardian ad litem for here in Licking County, where 2 boys are being raped and sodomized. And they have told him, they have told the authorities, they have a nationwide hospital report that I have. So this is something that they have told Nationwide Hospital what is happening to them. And Mark Poole, a guardian ad litem, it said that it was okay for him to be around the perpetrator's family. And in our county, the authorities took away the children from the mother, and the mother was the only protector to these 2 boys. And you know what they said in our county? They said that the mother was coaching the boys, is why they took the boys away from the mother, which was absolutely untrue. And Mark Poole was a part of that. He's a guardian ad litem. He did similar things in our case with our children. I won't go into that now, but I'm telling you, we have personal experience with these guardian ad litems, and we used our voice on social media, and we had so many families reach out to us and say guardian ad litems are horrible individuals, and wanting to protect them only means that they are going to keep children in chaos and they're going to get paid for it, which sounds like trafficking to me.
It's true.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Well, okay.
All right.
Yeah, you got it.
I have a couple of comments and questions.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah. So I'm hoping your pizza wasn't wood fired. You'd be in trouble for that. As a little jab at New York. The question I have is, what sort of repercussions might the lawyers suffer? Can the lawyer be sued if they make the wrong choice and the child is put back into a harmful environment? And if not sued for their action or inaction, can we have them disbarred? Because it makes sense to me that if these lawyers are doing things that keep themselves busy by putting children in harm's way, we need to have an outlet to make them suffer consequences. The other thing is, I don't know anything about this Adam Miller. I can sense that I already don't like Adam Miller, but one of the things that I've seen a lot of people do is taking to social media and tagging. So here's an idea. This is a little bit, I'm spitballing something a little creative. Like when a month ago, I came up with the idea of creating an event for August 8th to remind people to go out and vote yes for issue 1. Good. Here's a new idea. Find Adam Miller and other people involved with this wacky concept of protecting lawyers. Lawyers don't need protection. Right. But then we all know what's the most common joke out there? Lawyer jokes. Find some lawyer jokes and start tagging Adam Miller with lawyer jokes all over social media. And I think what that will do His people will have some fun because there are some funny lawyer jokes, but that will garner awareness for this wackadoodle bill that he's proposed. What do you think of that idea?
That's good.
Yeah, and to answer your question, yes, we want to disbar the guardian ad litems, but Jonathan, you would be so surprised how protected they are, number one. And number two, it is costly to go back into court to prove that your guardian ad litem has harmed the children, which is what we plan on doing. We will plan on doing that with our guardian ad litem. But the guardian ad litem plays such a vital role in the child's case. And these guardian ad litems are evil. You guys, they're so evil. I cannot stress it enough. I just want people, whoever's listening to this, Joe, Jonathan, if you guys have questions about this, we can give you countless information on how evil these guardian ad litems are, because they want children kept in chaos.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and the other thing is this, it's the bar association, right? To be an attorney, you're part of the club.
Yep.
So good luck finding a local attorney that'll sue another attorney to have him disbarred. You have to get somebody from out of town. It's a little hairy, but that's what you're up against. You have to find the right attorney that'll take that case. Mind having the reputation in your county that the rest of the local bar, he's not going to get promoted to the next whatever he wants in his career if he starts going after people in the
sounds a lot like politics. Sounds like a lot of politics right there.
Yeah.
It's just exactly the same thing. Right. You can't say anything against another politician, another Republican or something, because that could hurt your career. Hey, guys, I got one last thing here before we wrap it up tonight, and this is going to be – I'm going to have a little fun here. So I need you to this is friendly competition against Jonathan and Jake and Sabrina. So you guys are competing against each other.
Good.
Yeah. and the grand prize will probably be like a can of non-alcohol beer or something. Okay. That's what you're playing for. All right, here we go. Get out a piece of paper. Get out a sheet of paper. Okay. And I want you guys, what we're going to do here is I've got the music too. We're going to play this music. You got to tell me, and you got to write it down, what is the state of Ohio, what is the state fruit for Ohio? The state fruit. Okay, we actually have a state fruit. Okay. This is pressure time, guys. All right, so that's it. Time is up. So you got to have it written down. So we will go to I'll do Jake and Sabrina. What is the state fruit? What did you guys write?
Hey, I'll say apple.
Yep.
You'll say apple. Okay. Apple. That's not correct, though. Jonathan, you can win it all, man. You got it all if you can tell me. What is it? Do you know?
I've always wanted a can of non-alcoholic beer. I actually have no idea. So I wrote down the first thing that came to mind, being in northern Ohio, which is Concord grape.
The grape. No, that is not it. Here we are, guys. It is the tomato, or some people call it the tomato. But I always thought it was a vegetable myself, to be honest with you. So that no one won the prize, and so we'll just save it we'll save it. Yeah, sorry about that. Nobody gets the but we do have some fanfare too, by the way, for trying. Just for trying. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, you guys have a great 4th of July and everything like that. Stay out of trouble, and we will talk with everybody soon. Thanks. God bless. See you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.